Hi, this is Rosanna,
And this is Gabby.
and we are co-chairs of the SciENS Global Health Network's Adolescent and Young Adult Working Group.
And we want to invite you to be part of this new project that we have that is called Charlas de Café.
Or coffee cups.
So here you will get a chance to share a short interview with a specialist in the AYA, and I hope you enjoy it.
And make sure to check it out on the SciENS official page at Onco Daily.
Yep, and you can always join our working group if you're taking care of AYA.
Okay, we are here with Brian Lobel, who is an artist, a professor, and a curator with a keen interest in body narratives. He has exhibited his works in venues such as Harvard Medical School, the Sydney Opera House, the National Theatre in London, and the Lagos Theatre Festival. His book, Theatre and Cancer, was published by Red Globe Press, and he is currently a professor of the theatre and acting at Rose Bruford College and a co-founder of the Sick of the Fringe.
So,
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. So we would like to start just if you can tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience as a patient, but also as a person, and so we get to know you a little bit.
Yeah, sure. My name is Brian. I'm originally from New York. I've lived in London for the last 17 years. I lived a very normal life as like a white, cisgendered guy from a suburban family. And I did not, non-disabled, until I was 20 years old. And at 20, I was diagnosed with stage 3 metastatic testicular cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly I changed, my body changed. I lost a lot of weight. Obviously, I was on treatment. I had surgery. I had my testicle removed. I had abdominal surgery. I had chemotherapy. I had stem cell transplants. I went from, there's an amazing thinker named Carrie Sandel, who's in Chicago, and she talks about the disabled or sick body causing commotion in public space. What's going to happen? What do we need? What does this person need? Can I look at them? Can I not look at them? But she also talks about co-motion. We are suddenly in a dance with each other. Someone who looks different is suddenly in a dance. I see you, seeing me, seeing you, seeing me. So until I was 20, I never caused a commotion in public space. And when I was 20 and when I was sick, I caused commotion. And that inspired me to start making solo performance work about the experience about cancer, because I thought, well, if everyone is staring at me because I look different, I've lost my hair, my skin looks like that of one with chemotherapy, why don't I just be in control of the story that I'm telling? So I became a solo performer, and my major themes in artwork have always been about not being inspirational as a cancer patient. When I had cancer, Lance Armstrong was just winning his 6th Tour de France, and we had a similar diagnosis, and he was this Superman. Of course, he was a liar and he was a cheat, and there are all those problems. But I really wanted to promote, what does it mean to just be normal? Right. What happens if you don't achieve wild success and also don't die? What is this world in between? And that's actually been really helpful to work with people with chronic illness, people with cancer. It never happened 30 years ago. The people with cancer always lived or died. And now we have a whole new population of people that might be on chronic treatment for the rest of their lives. And I think that's a good thing, but it's a different narrative we have to tell. So I've been making a lot of work. I've written a series of work myself called Ball and Other Funny Stories About Cancer. And then I've done a series of projects with other cancer patients called Fun with Cancer Patients in a few different places. I'm happy to always come to South America to perform and create with people there. That would be amazing. But the best show of my life was working with a group of elders in Japan who wanted to learn about how to talk about cancer better. So we did. Okay. I have a musical about cancer. And I've been just trying to, and I'll finish up in 1 second, but really I've been doing this work for 22 years since I had cancer. And I think the big thing that was a leading process was that usually when you have cancer, people really want you to get back to talking about normal things. They want you to have the cancer and you can talk about it and you can need things, but at some point you have to shut up and go back to normal, stop moving into that space. But I felt profoundly changed by my cancer. And when I looked at how people with cancer were kind of shutting up and going back to normal, what was happening is that the cancer community couldn't build on expertise from people that came before because those people didn't stay in that community. They went back to the normal world. So I thought, what would happen if we just stay talking about it, thinking about it? I don't have the cancer I had 22 years ago, but I have a lot of expertise on this subject. So I want to try to stay connected throughout. I hope that makes sense. That's probably a lot of information.
It makes a lot of sense. And I want to, no, it made a lot of sense. And I love that you brought 2 points. One is how art gave you the tools to tell your own story in your own way, which sometimes what we see with patients like going through treatment, whatever, is that they're always and I don't know if you agree with this or you can agree with me. They're always trying to tell a story that suits and fits people who surrounds them. So
Absolutely.
pleasing their parents or their families or their friends, they're like, I'm okay, I'm a fighter, whatever they tell them to be, and there's no room for creativity of like to express themselves in a different way because they have to be these fighters.
Yeah,
They don't want to be, because we got a lot of that. I don't want to fight any fight. This is not something I was planning to do in my life. I mean, who could be planning to do that in their life? And the other thing is what I love that you said is that how to reintegrate with the community and how the oncology community somehow got behind this progress. We progress, we did a lot of improvement in having now a lot of survivors or people that they live with cancer and they can go back to normal life, but we couldn't, I mean, the way you said, totally adapt or integrate to that world.
Yeah, I'm really fascinated by, cancer in the world of diseases has quite a lot of privilege, actually. We have name recognition, we've got brand recognition. People know what cancer is, they know that's a bad thing, they know to care about it. A lot of other diseases and struggles really wish they had the branding of it. And some people's cancers are very challenging, others less so, but I think for me, it's cancer becomes the interface between the healthy and the sick.
Right.
And it tells us so much about capitalism, about productivity, about work, about love, about life, about sex, about religion. It does. So instead of, I want for cancer and patients to allow us to learn about the world at large, about what their experiences are. Because I think the great lie about cancer is that kind of everything goes away. All of societal problems stop, and we just focus on this person, and families get back together, and they love each other, and everything is fine.
Hallmark movie.
And no one is racist, and no one is transphobic, and no one is homophobic, and no one is classist, and no one is heteronormative. But actually, what actually happens is the opposite, is that cancer explodes all of these things. And if it was a little bit messy before, it's super
really
messy
messy.
now. Absolutely.
Right,
So
and-
that's,
Yeah,
And
so
I think art
Yeah.
can help us navigate those things. They can
Mhm.
help us with the navigation.
So we don't, in oncology, we don't incorporate art much in our system, right? Way to express patients. We kind of expect patients to be angry, sad, disappointed, hopefuls. I mean, we just have a lot of like a spectrum of feelings that we kind of anticipate and expect, but we don't provide tools of expression or even tools to get out of the environment of like being the sick patient, the sick person in the room and back there. So what would be from you to advise to us? Like, what should we change? It should be part of like during treatment, after treatment, like what did you think you missed while you were going through treatment or after that we could incorporate?
So the first thing that a patient wants is technical brilliance from their team.
Perfect.
Like a plumber,
Yeah, you want the best one to fix
plumbing
it.
problem, I want that plumbing fixed. That's number one.
Perfect.
But a very close second is the ability to listen to what I'm actually anxious about. When I was a young man with testicular cancer, everyone told me that I would be out playing sports again really quickly and that I'd be out having sex with girlfriends again. It was ridiculous. I mean, like, no one looked at me and asked me what I was concerned about. They just know testicle, masculine, ball, sex, and sports.
We assume that you wear that stereotype.
And that might be true for a number of men. But I promise you, very few men, I think that very few people are actually thinking about sex or sports or anything like that in the moment of diagnosis. They're actually thinking about, do I have to tell my workplace? Do I need to take off work? Am I going to be financially prepared for this? Is my mental health going to be okay? What kind of addictions am I going to get out of this? There's so many other things. My big thing was, do I have to move home to live with my parents? Because I was 20, I was at a university, 1,000 miles away from where I live.
Right.
Did I have to move home? Would I have insurance for this? Should I say it to an employer? These are the real things that people are asking about. And so my greatest advice to anyone would be to say, what are the questions that you need to have answer before you leave this room?
Right.
Now, if the question is, why me? And it's a large spiritual question, we can't deal with that. But the questions of, will I be able to work 1 week after cancer treatment are the kinds of questions that people really need to know the answer to. They don't want to hear that they're a survivor or they're strong. They want to hear, like, my partner can deal with this or they can't, or my children can hear about this or they can't. That's what they want to know. That's what they want to know.
Okay.
So I think making sure that you're listening to what the actual concerns are and making sure that those are spoken to.
Right. I will bring up another issue that we oncologists have is that we believe that we know the questions that you have and we don't. And sometimes we said, why don't you write it down on a piece of paper and I come back next week? And it's, I guess in some cases it works. I don't know what you think about that. But I think for some questions, like practicals and more emotional questions, you need more time. And like kind of to build up confidence. And like sometimes they don't think they can ask questions like, do I have to tell my employer? Things like this, like that is the question to the oncologist.
Yeah.
Who of the team they have to ask about that. And I say that as a criticism to
No, I mean, so two things inside of that. Number one, time needs to be greater in all spaces, but also a doctor or a nurse or a social worker have to know it is not only them that is solving problems, and that we have a community of care, that there might be people that are better placed than this. Surgeons, for example, are traditionally known as not great with bedside manner. It's fine. I don't care. When we are working together, that surgeon and I, when we're working together, I'm not talking. I'm out. I'm out. So just go and do that and make sure it's really good. I want my surgeon well rested, not arrogant, and have listened to me if I had an action plan. For some people that have surgeries that could go this way or that way, you want a surgeon that's going to listen and obey that. But I think it's important to know that it's everyone that has to be responsible. It's a community. And sometimes the best thing that a doctor or a nurse can do is to signpost who is the best person to talk to if it's not me.
Right.
If a doctor is not comfortable talking about sex and sexuality, you don't have to be.
Right.
We want a no shame answer to know where the resource is. Where do I go to look for that thing? I don't need to have a conversation with my doctor about my sex life. I need my doctor to say, Brian, if you've got questions about sex, sexuality, here's a trusted source, or here's a group of people that deal with that. So instead of saying, in this 12 minutes, I have to get through this, and this, it can be about, look, all of these people care about you.
Yeah, for you.
All these people want to help you, and they all help you in a slightly different way.
Right.
And people who move equipment in the hospital help in a different way. As an administrator helps in a different way. A nurse, a security guard, everyone helps in a different way. The other thing I'll say is that of course, some doctors or nurses think that they know the best, because after 1,000 patients, you know the trends, you
Right.
know what's there. But two things that can be done. Number one, I would always say, I always do this thing with people that I give multiple choice questions.
Okay.
I think I know it's going to be A or B. But I say A, B, or C, other. That allows me as an expert to say, some people choose A, some people that I've known have chosen B, and C is because I know that not everyone fits in those two categories. But that sometimes also helps people frame, because sometimes actually there's so many questions, there's so many overwhelming things that actually, if you ask me about my sleep,
Right.
I actually don't have big mature thoughts on it. You ask me about sex, I can choose A or B, no problem.
No problem.
You ask me about spirituality, you could be A, B, or C. And actually, that's the thing where I really care about it. So I really want to expand out that conversation. So it's not a problem. And in fact, the opposite. It's good for you to know, most people that we know share that they're anxious about this or that. We know it because that's expertise. You build that expertise. But I think it's also important to say, like, I might be an expert, but I'm also an expert enough to know that if 90% of people think one thing, I still need to speak to that other 10%.
Right.
And give them space. But actually, it's also okay to like see those 90% of people. I lead funerals and weddings. Everyone, and that came out of my desire to be alongside the people that I had worked with cancer. That many of them died, and so I had started leading funerals for them. Most people know-ish what they want about a funeral. And you give them 90%, it's all the same. But that 10% of difference is where people feel seen, they feel valued, they feel that their opinion is important, etc. So that's it. That was a very long answer to a short question.
No. I appreciate it. I appreciate because you're very thoughtful and you kind of like just to go to every angle. I don't know if that counts. You do. No, you're very good at that, actually.